Welcome to Educator.com. So today we're going to start with the preparation for the AP exam, for the Spanish language. What is this about? What do we have to know about it? How can we embrace it? And how can we be ready to pass it with a good score? We don't have to be worried about actually so many things. We just have to make sure that we know how to prove our knowledge with the language. What do we mean here? Okay, when we speak about knowing about language, sometimes people think that it's about knowing the meaning of some words, knowing how to say a sentence, how to say, hola, me llamo Patricia. No, it's not about that. When you're actually passing this exam, it's that you're proving the knowledge of it and what does it mean in the Spanish community. Spanish language has a lot of important, not just because of the words, but also by the background that it has itself. Spanish language comes by it's used in all the world by different ways, by different communities, and some of them are not similar at all. But this language is what connects them. So let's go over it. Let's try to face this situation and be able to take it in our hands and say like, okay, I can pass it. I'm ready to go to this exam, and I'm ready to, after passing it, realize that I'm actually aware of this language and I'm actually to speak with any Spanish speaker because I know about the background of this language, I know about what are the rules in the language, and I know how to communicate and feel comfortable enough as if I were speaking with another speaker from my language. I think that it's a really great gift. So don't take this exam just as a challenge of something that you have to ask because somebody's asking you to pass it. Just take it because it's a great gift for yourself. Once you pass it, you actually had something that is gonna make you become actually a Spanish speaker. Let's go for it. What is this exam like? This exam, as I was telling you, it's actually proving your knowledge about the language. And when we say knowledge, it's not just words, it's also communities that use the language, it's also influences that came with the language. So it's knowing words and knowing the background of the words. And when you know this, you are able to communicate. And by communication, I don't mean just writing or reading. Communicate is when you give a reaction to something that a Spanish speaker is giving you. If you are in front of somebody, you want to be able to communicate. And this is not just understand specific words. Communication, it's being able to speak, to make sense with your answers, to make sense with your mailings. If somebody's emailing you and you're gonna give an answer about a job or about a news of somebody who had a new child, you wanna prove your excitement and you don't wanna feel narrow, like I wanna express how excited I am, but I don't know the words, I don't know how to say this, I don't know what would be the common, like the quotidian, the routine expression for this. So that is the ability of speak, the ability of write, the ability of listen, and the ability of communicate. And this exam, this skill is gonna be proved and asked to you to be proven by 6 different themes. What do I mean with this? Okay, the exam, as I was telling you, is asking you to prove how much you know about the language. Since it's not just about words, but also about the background of the language, this way, by answering these themes in the questions, you're actually connecting with different factors that affect to the Spanish communities. So this is one thing that is going to help you. If we go through these different themes that we're going to go over them later, you could find different contexts that you can approach them. And you don't want to feel stressed about if you're using the right context or not. At the end of the day, all of the contexts, all of the different themes are interconnected. So I highly recommend you to pay attention if you start today with this program. If you will start learning how to pass the exam, I really recommend you to start just paying attention to what it surrounds you. You can start in your native language, you can start with English, and you would realize that it's not just specific themes, like for example, if you're in work you would be talking maybe about technology, And when you're talking about technology, you would be talking about something that is some program that is going to be developed next year, but because of the money, it couldn't be developed. So maybe you later start talking about maybe political issues, and then political issues become demographic issues, and demographic issues become social stuff. That is the connection that I mean. So this same is going to happen in the exam. Those themes are going to be connected. So don't feel stressed if you're supposed to, for example, if you're tested in a technology theme and you feel like, I don't know about technology, I don't know what is the technology in Spain or in Mexico, I don't know about it. It's fine. It's not going to be about it. It's not going to be just about it. It's about a general idea. It's how that technology affect to the Spanish community, that in that case, in that specific case, is going to be shown. Pretty easy. Then, what do we have to do with this then? As I was telling you, you have to analyze them, you have to talk about them, and you have to compare them. If you know about it, if you remember that I just told you, if you pass the exam, you're going to be able to communicate. And when you communicate, you are not just saying words, you are not just answering, you are actually becoming part of this community. If you're passing the exam, it means that you are actually taking advantage of what this language is giving to you in real life. If you are in a party with Spanish speakers around you, they would have a culture. They would probably use different expressions that you would to the ones that you would use. So you can interpret those and you can make them become part of your own culture. This is also one part of the exam. They want to see how able you are to prove that you know what is the gap between that culture and your culture. You need to prove that you know how to see the difference. If you are able to communicate, then you can express this difference perfectly. So it's analyze, it's compare, and talk about this situation that is the Spanish language with its culture and themes. Then if you pass the AP exam, it means that you are fluent among Spanish-speaking world. Don't take this just as a challenge. As I'm telling you, take it as a gift. If you pass the AP exam, you are giving yourself the gift of living another situation that otherwise you wouldn't be ever living, because you would be just stuck in your own culture, and it doesn't open you doors to other lives. If you don't know about the Spanish language, or if you don't pass the AP exams maybe, and you travel to a certain Spanish place where they speak Spanish, or a Spanish community, you may be just there visiting places, and maybe you just want to see a specific tourist place, this square, this monument. But if you actually pass the AP Spanish exam, the good thing is that once you travel to this Spanish community, you can enjoy it. You know about it. You have the background of it. You can become part of that people that is surrounded you, but communicating as they do, you can understand better what are the intentions, and you can feel comfortable in that place. I mean, who doesn't want to actually feel comfortable once we are traveling? I think that you actually want to go anywhere else and feel that you can enjoy it as much as possible, and not just come back home and say, yes, like, yeah, I saw these places, but I wasn't able to understand what the locals were telling me because, I don't know, they taught me something weird about this tradition and I was afraid of it. You want to feel comfortable, and that's a gift. If you are able to go through regular conversations, if you comprehend daily print material and notice difference between their community values and traditions between that one and yours, then you're perfect capable to pass the AP exam. So let's go for it. Success means that you are able to understand, to interpret what is the Spanish community, how to communicate with itself. How to communicate by this ability. let me help you with this, and let me help you to develop the strategies that are actually gonna make you pass the exam. Because in the exam, some people find it tricky because they study very like, okay, I have to remember this word, I have to remember this structure, and then if the listening tell me this, or if in the writing I find this expression, therefore I have to answer to this writing in this format. No, that is not gonna work. Maybe it works if you're really lucky and it's exactly a brief text that is exactly the same word that you studied, but it's not what the exam is like. They are not going to be based on that. The answers are not going to be based on that. What you're supposed to give to the exam is not that. You're supposed to prove, as I was telling you, that you can communicate. And when we talk about communication, it's not just learning words. It's getting an idea, being able to interpretate the information. So, for example, if we have a multiple choice part, and you, as we start with this, you would feel in the practice that if you have the multiple choice in front of you and you won't be following me, probably you'll find like a lot of answers are pretty similar, and actually some of them could work for the right answer. But if you actually keep practicing these strategies and you start from now with them, as we keep going on, you realize that it's pretty clear that the right answer is there, because that one is the one which is connected with the background that you know, with the ideas, with the intentions, with the tone of the text that you're reading and the text that those questions are actually talking about. So let's go for them. There are actually great strategies that we can learn, so all the parts of the exam are easy for you to embrace. What is the exam like? If we are talking that the APA exam is testing your ability to communicate and to interpret, how is it going to be like? All this communication is going to be structured in different parts that are actually pretty clear. So don't take it like, okay, I have to prove this here, I have to prove this here. No, take it like, in this part, in the old exam, I'm basically communicating, and they're going me to be communicative by different styles. The first style would be more about reading and choosing an interpretation of that reading or that listening, and then the second part would be more about listening, writing, or speaking. Let's see, how is it like? In the section 1, we have interpretative communication. Interpretative means that you are proving how can you put together the ideas that they are giving you by the sources, by the information. Interpretative means that they are going to be testing how well you are able to understand the right meaning. Because in the questions, in the multiple choice answers, you can these answers are actually possible interpretation about the text. As I was telling you, with the strategies that we're going to use here for the text and for the sources to understand them, these options, these interpretations are going to be very clear for you as right or wrong interpretations. Because if you follow them, you will make sure that you're getting the right ideas. So let's say again, section 1 is interpretation. Interpretation that can come from a print source or an audio source. It's 50% of the score because we have interpretative communication, and then we have the other section that is coming later, and we'll have it for 95 minutes. This part is split in two. This section, is split in two parts. Part A, it's reading comprehension. We have to interpretate a source that is coming in a reading way. We have to read it, and we'll have for it 30 questions to answer, and it takes us 40 minutes. So we'll have this source that is coming printed, and with these strategies, we're going to be able to pull out the information in the right way, so we can answer these 30 questions that have multiple choice answers, and you will pass it perfectly. And then for the part B, we will have another 35 questions and 55 minutes. In the part B, the same as we had before our reading comprehension, and we had just to interpretate this reading. In the part B, they want us to interpretate two sources. They want us to prove that we know how to interpretate a reading, and how can we connect that idea from the reading with the idea that is coming from the audio. So we would have two activities in this section, in this part B, that would be print and audio combined. So you will read an article and you would have questions about that article, and also you would have a listening and you would have questions about the listening, but they are both connected in the same activity. Okay, so for the part B, you would have print and audio connected, and there you would have just in this other 35 questions would be just about a listening. So again, so for the part A, we will have 30 questions about how can we interpret this reading, 30 questions about it, and in the part B we would have another 35 questions about how to interpret a specific print and audio, or just audio. It will be 2 print and audio combined, and 3 just audio text. For the section 2, this case is not about a communication where you have to interpret and give different and choose which is the right interpretation. In this case, you have a free response. It's up to you to give the right idea. You are not going to have any other option to express your skill of how can you create properly. For example, how can you speak properly about a specific interpretation. For this section, it's the second section 2, and it's the same score, it's 50% of the total score. You would have 2 parts that we split as well here in A and 1 and 2. For part A, we're going to have writing, and for B, we're going to have speaking. But let's go back to the main goal of the exam. It's about communication, right? So let's try to think just for a second, what is communication like? How can we communicate? We can communicate, for example, just being seated waiting for a line and reading a magazine and getting the right idea of the article, for example. And so there's here communication that you are interpreting the information that you're getting here. Or maybe you can just actually communicate with other person by answering an email, and you're creating this communication here by the email. Or you can actually communicate with other person by a conversation. Or what it can happen as well is that you can communicate yourself by giving opinions, by giving a speech. That is also communication, but in a different way. So this is also going to be proven. They want to see how can we react to different sources, and how can we communicate ourselves in different situations. So we would have interpersonal in 2 styles, the writing and the speaking. And then we would have the personal meaning that you are the only person in this part of the communication. You are just expressing yourself towards a specific thing that would be written, or you're expressing yourself towards a specific idea that would be spoken. Okay, so that's why we have part A and part B, because they want to see these 2 situations in 2 styles, writing and speaking. That's communication, speaking and writing, and also listening and reading. Then for what is exactly it's part of the exam. For the part A, as I told you, it's all multiple choice, the first section. For the part A, we'll have 30 questions. These questions are going to be related to 4 sources. All the sources are actually, for example, if you are going to have a specific source, a specific test, we're going to be talking about this. You are going to be reading the text. We're going to use our strategies to pull out the main parts of it. And in that time, you are going to be able to answer the questions. These sources are actually real. There are magazines, newspapers, literature, web pages, and again, communication. For example, think that you have a literature, a short cut of a literature piece. So you have to be able to know about that. What is literature? You need to train yourself in the background of the language. Remember, this is important. We can use these strategies, but if you don't train yourself with the background of the language, being said, information about the countries, information about language as literature, about important people in the literature who were celebrities in past times, and also maybe technology. As the same as we know about our culture, we need to know about the Spanish culture, because that is what they are testing here. So that is going to help us to interpret real material that they are using with us. So for print text here, magazine or newspaper, you have to identify the main ideas, target the audience, because you need to know what is actually doing this article, what is it for, and making predictions or inferring the meaning, because later you have the answer, the questions there, but you need to know more or less what could be the goal of it, what is the general form of it, what is it for over there in the exam. And then in the part B, section 1, remember multiple choice, we'll have another 35, and you, as I told you, 2 combined print and audio text, and 3 listening comprehension activities. They are all real. Again, and the listening as well, radio, television, or internet. You will have time to read before doing the listening, and the listening is gonna play twice. So we'll go through these ways of embracing the listening and getting all the information that we need, because it's not gonna be forever, it's all timed. So with the strategies, you will be able to point out exactly what, like the ideas that you need to get, and are gonna be asked there. For the section 2, we would have a free response. So remember, it's gonna be not about choosing an answer, but giving your own response. It's gonna be for grading or for speaking. For the grading, we had the interpersonal. The interpersonal meaning that you are communicating with somebody. This communication is a formal email. You need to prove that you are able to answer an email that is in a formal format, and set the right situation. Also, you need not only to give the information that they're asking you in the email, but also try to expand the situation in a current way. You can only use 125 words. 125 words for this part, the email. And then for the part 2 of the writing, it's presentational. You won't be giving an answer to a person. This is not going to be an interpersonal situation. It's going to be personal, but you're going to get inspired, and you're going to have to develop your writing based on an essay. Based on a general topic. It's very general. You don't have to be afraid of not approaching it perfectly. If you know about the language, if you know about the culture, then it's going to be perfect, because you would be able to approach the topic that I told you, that if you don't know specifically about a certain topic, they are all connected, so you can find a way to go towards it. So you would be inspired by 2 print sources and an audio file. You would have 55 minutes for it, and there you would have to express yourself about the topic in an essay. It's actually pretty great, because you know how to write, and you would have a lot of information already to do this exercise. I think it's actually one of the best part for you to prove this ability of communication, because if you take advantage of the different sources that they're gonna give you, you would get a lot of information that you can later use in your essay. Then you have to respond, if you do it properly, you have to respond to the questions and with the info provided. In this case, since you have to give an essay, you would have 250 words to use. Minimum. In the essay, there's no maximum, because it means that if you use them properly, don't worry if you need more words, because you are actually expanding your communication. You are stretching you want to stretch how much you know about this topic that they're asking you about. For the part B, that is about speaking, we are talking here about writing. In the part A. And for the part B of section 2, we'll be talking about speaking. part B. So that's actually great because it's the end of the exam. You feel like, okay, I did it, now it's my time to talk. And I have all of this information that I was using in the exam that I can for sure use in my speaking. How is this speaking? So before in the writing, they were, as I told you, they want to see how can you communicate with other person. Here it happens the same. You are going to be doing an interpersonal speaking test. What is it like? You have to initiate, maintain, and finish a conversation. And it's not gonna be like it's all on you. No, you have to actually go over the prompts that the other person is gonna be giving you. What do we mean with prompts? You're gonna have 5 times to actually make that conversation. And those 5 times are gonna be to initiate, maintain, and finish. You're gonna have another person record to give you the conversation, to give you the answers in the communication of this part of the test. So each of the each of the times that you give your response, you would have 20 seconds. 20 seconds. So you have to make sure that you are actually doing what you're supposed to do in that time, not because it's a test, but because, again, you are proving to know how to manage a real situation. So we'll find ways to do that actually great and pretty simple. For the part 2 is presentational speaking. There is, again, as before in the writing, there's not a second person. Here it's all about you, but the same happens. You are going to be inspired by different sources, and this source, in this case, the other case you were doing an essay, here the main thing is that you compare your perspective of this Spanish community within your own culture. That is the main point in this part. You have to defend, you have to be sure and confident in your speaking part here, because you need to prove that you have this background of the language and you feel comfortable going over it. And that's going to be great, I'm sure, because it would be the end and you would have, as I told you, so much knowledge about the language and all the Spanish culture that is connected to it, that you could go over it perfectly. But remember, it's important to compare and you will have 2 minutes for this one. It's gonna be very fast. So what is the description of the exam? What is it gonna be about? As I told you, we are gonna have this structure, but what is over this structure? What is it about? We had these themes, but all of them have its specific context that I highly recommend you to practice and get information from them. Los desafíos mundiales, global challenges, ciencia y tecnología, science and technology, vida contemporánea, contemporary life, identidades personales, personal identities, familias y comunidades, families and communities, y la belleza y la estética. These overarching themes have each one of them a specific context, so it's going to be pretty easy if you actually know how to approach them by any other context. So, well, with this, we already know what is the structure of the exam. We already know what are the overthemes of it, and we already know how to actually embrace it. I told you, we know how to start from this point as thinking that it's a chance for us to communicate in Spanish. We actually know a lot if we are ready to go for the exam, and I can assure you that you will pass it if you feel relaxed, because once you had all that knowledge, it's just a proof in a real situation that is structured in a block that comes called Section 1, Section 2, Part A, Part B. But it's gonna be pretty easy. We're gonna use these strategies and they are gonna make you feel finally released, and you can use them forever. Hope you like it. Thank you for watching Educator.com.